It seems like you should know who your characters are before you ever start writing them, but that approach can make writing harder, not easier. I found that creating characters first can be one of the worst places to start in your writing. In this video, I'm going to discuss a better approach to creating characters that will make it easier for you to build your stories first and then adding the characters you need to advance it. I'll also give you a brief example of how this worked for me. Now, if you're filling out character worksheets for your characters, you might feel like you need to write about where they were born, what's their deepest fear, how they broke their leg in third grade when they fell off the stage during the school play, the important stuff. You feel like you need to write long, complicated biographies for each character before you start writing the story. That might be fine if you've already outlined your story, but if you're a discovery writer, this approach could really hurt how your story progresses as you write. It also might be fine as a learning exercise, but when you're done, you just have a bunch of characters waiting for a story to happen around them. Also, if your characters are established before your story, you might have created constraints around them and the story because you have to work around the backstories you've already created. Another thing you might realize when trying to work them into the story is the sunk cost fallacy problem. And that means if you've spent a lot of time building a character, writing their backstory, really fleshing them out, you might feel like you have to use them in the story now, whether they fit or not. So you didn't waste all that time creating that information. Years ago, when I wanted to start writing fiction, I read Stephen King's book on writing, as people do. And in it, he says, I want to put a group of characters, perhaps a pair, perhaps even just one, in some sort of predicament, and then watch them try to work themselves free. My job isn't to help them work their way free or manipulate them to safety. Those are jobs which require the noisy jackhammer of plot, but to watch what happens and then write it down. The situation comes first, the characters, always flat and unfeatured to begin with, come next. He also wrote if you're enslaved or intimidated by the tiresome tyranny of the outline and the notebook filled with character notes, it may liberate you. At the time, I thought there's no way that works. Just start writing and see what happens. I'm really bad about not wanting to spend too much of my time on something unless I know the outcome. I'm really a planner for most things. So I decided I was someone that needed to plot my book and all of my characters before I could start writing. So I wrote biographies, picked out pictures of what the characters would look like, and let me tell you, none of that worked. I just couldn't figure out how to build a story around them once I was done. I never finished one of them until this year, and that only changed because I changed how I approach my writing and my character creation process. For this book, I tried to start it the same way as I always have, build the characters and then use them to outline my book, but I just couldn't get it to work. It was too hard because I didn't know my story, and I couldn't figure out how the characters fit together to create one. So I scrapped all of my outline material. I took 2 characters who I knew very little about, and I put them in an inciting event. I knew how the event would start in chapter 1 and how it would end in chapter 2, but I didn't know much beyond that. Let me tell you, that process for me was very uncomfortable. Like from the time I started until the time I finished the first draft, but it did get better as I continued writing. But I always felt somewhat lost, and that is not a feeling I enjoy. And I don't mind admitting what Stephen King said would happen, happened. I mean, of course it did. He's Stephen King. I created my characters organically as the story needed them, and then they started doing things I never planned for them to do to move the story along. I doubt I would have finished my first draft if I hadn't abandoned the character sheets and the story outlines. So now I want to walk you through an example of how this worked for me. I've thought through this scenario already for the video, so it isn't spontaneous now, but it was when I came up with it. And once you start down this path, it's not hard to see how the story develops and deciding, I need to insert a character here to do this, or I need to insert a character here, there to do that. So the situation I want to start with for my scenario is I have an ex-Army guy named Frank who runs a shelter for veterans, helping them put their lives back together. He also has a wife that adores him, kids who look up to him, and he takes the trash to the curb every Thursday like he's supposed to. He might be a nice person, but so far, this is a pretty boring story. Now, what if I expand on Frank's story? What if he's actually running illegal guns to support the shelter? He has the contacts to do it because he was in the military. The guns are used in some South American civil war, so it doesn't affect him or his community. He would never sell guns in America and certainly not his city, so he thinks he can justify what he's doing since he's helping support the shelter. Now that story's a little more interesting, but still somewhat boring. His status quo isn't currently in any jeopardy, so we'll need to add a character to create that jeopardy. Now, rather than creating some generic crime figure, I want to create a character closer to Frank to add some internal and external conflict. So I'm going to add Ray to this story. And at this moment, I only need a minimum amount of backstory for Ray to generate that conflict. So prior to my coming up with the scenario, I didn't know Ray existed. Let's say Ray is an ex-military buddy of Frank's. He's a recovering gambler who has stayed at Frank's shelter and was able to get back on his feet with Frank's help. Now, since he was such a success story and they have history together, Frank hired Ray to help him. Now, eventually, Ray was brought in to help with the gun running part of the business as well. That's still not much of a story, but I've established their relationship, and I've given Ray just enough backstory to logically support his position in the narrative, so he's earned a place to be a character in this so far. Now, my last step is use Ray to create the conflict that drives the story, or at least ignites it. So, say after years of not gambling, Ray falls off the wagon, and he starts gambling again. He gets really far in debt and doesn't have the money to pay off the bookie, so he trades some of Frank's guns to the bookie to settle the debt. The guns are then used in some local gang violence, people get killed, and Frank finds out. Now, this conflict not only fractures Frank's relationship with Ray, but Frank's also worried the guns will get traced back to him. The shelter will be shut down, he might lose his family. Now, this has the potential to create internal conflict, local conflict, and even global conflict. So Frank then needs to deal with Ray. He needs to stop any further violence. He needs to get his guns back before the police get their hands on them. And he needs to make sure his buyers get their guns before they come looking for him. Now we have a story without needing to create any characters prior to this event. This setup will require additional characters to be created as you go, like the bookie, or Frank's gun supplier, or Frank's gun buyer. But none of those need to be created until the story is ready to introduce them. Characters built this way never feel like they're being worked into a plot. They feel like they're affecting the plot. You only need to give them enough traits and backstory for that to happen. They'll grow as the story grows, so you'll learn more about them as you continue to write. They can organically become whatever they need to be. So try building your situation first, and the story will determine if and when you need more characters to support it. This allows you to create characters more organically, and they tend to be less flat, and it also keeps the plot and story moving. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.